initiatives, once you've heard those. By way of an agenda, very quick introduction. David will make some announcements in a moment. We'll then get into the demonstration of the platform for about 10 minutes, so you can see that. Then Ed is going to bring us up to date on the benchmarking idea that we've got as the EA and in combination with Omnevue. I've also got a little bit of news from the Omnevue end on that. And then we're going to look at, as we say, with our alignment with the various frameworks and performance tools, such as the EU taxonomy, SBTI, and CREM, which many of you know about and are using. And then we're going to talk about the pilot group and some of the benefits of that to members. And then we'll leave questions, if that's okay, till the very end in the last 15 minutes. Otherwise, we'll never get through this agenda because there's lots of us and we all love to talk, which is great. But if we're going to get through the agenda, let's keep the questions to the end. Is that okay by way of an agenda, yeah? Okay. David, do you just want to do what announcements we've got?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mark. Welcome, everybody. We're delighted to see you all. As you know, Omnevue and the EEA have a strategic partnership. It's come because we've been at the EEA very impressed with what Mark's been doing, both on the King's course, which is going very well, and he's involved in Omnevue. The more that I think any of us are talking to people in the industry, the more we're finding how important data is and being able to bring all of that data together. And from looking around, I think this platform that Omnevue has is the one that's really impressed us in being able to bring all the data and the reporting together. So we're keen to make it as successful as possible. So one of the things that Omnevue is offering us, which we think is exciting, is for anybody who signs up to actually use the platform and start working with it, there will be a 10% discount if you sign up before the end of the year. And also, there's an opportunity to join a pilot group. That pilot group will have a chance to work more closely with the Omnevue team on the platform and how it's developing to actually discuss its evolution, which I think is often very helpful and interesting. And on top of that, Mark, who's teaching and leading the King's course, has been strong-armed into doing a specific separate webinar for anybody on the pilot group, all about the upcoming reporting requirements, which is pretty technical, mind-racking subject, but Mark is brilliant at dissecting it. So that will also be possible early in the new year for those who are in the pilot group. So hopefully those are carrots that you'll want to bite off immediately at the end of the webinar. So back to you, Mark.
Well, I wasn't aware I'd been volunteered, but I'm very happily, I will happily be volunteered.
Well, you'll have to blame Daniel because he volunteered you.
That's fine. Okay. Very good. Okay, well, I think if no one's got any questions on any of that until the end, as I say, please keep them until then. Jamie, I think straight into the demonstration of the platform.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to meet you all. My name is Jamie Crose. I'm working with the team at Omnevue. And yeah, so we're just going to get started with a live demo. So as the team has already mentioned, we had a previous webinar a few weeks ago where we discussed the importance of data quality and ESG reporting within the hospitality sector. And now we'd like to show you how we deal with that within the Omnevue platform. So for those of you who haven't come across us before, I think it might just be helpful to show you this diagram to get started. So we have built an ESG accountant engine at Omnevue. So think QuickBooks for ESG. So what that is a tech platform that makes it really easy for small and medium businesses to gather their ESG data that probably already exists within their business. They might just not know where it is. Our system's able to pull all the data it needs. We don't need a lot of work from you at all. That's what's happening on the left-hand side here. So we do that with direct integrations or APIs, which means we connect to things like your accounting system, your sales system, HR software. And with that, we're able to extract a lot of the data to calculate a lot of the ESG or sustainability KPIs for your business. Once we've collected the data, that's all the work done on your side. We'll do the rest of the heavy lifting. So our platform then automatically generates 25 ESG metrics across environmental, social, and governance, and you'll have the results back in just a number of days. So that's just a quick overview of the general process. And now I can show you the platform itself. So this is the Omnevue platform. So this is just the sign up screen, just to give you an idea of the information that we collect before you get started, to some really basic details about your business, industry. Obviously, I think a lot of the members on this call will go for hotels and lodging. We ask for your financial year end. And the reason we do that is because we integrate your financial reporting with your non-financial reporting, which means we collect all data in line with your financial year. And then we just ask you for your address, and then obviously some other details about your company. The reason we ask for the number of employees is we base our pricing based on the number of employees in your business. So those pricing brackets are 1 to 49, 50 to 249, and 250 plus. And once you've signed up and bought one of our products, you'll be met with the dashboard. So I'm balancing, admitting some people at the same time. So this is the Omnevue dashboard. And we're going to get straight into it. So what you can see here is two different sections: the data collection for the financial year 2022 on top, and then we've got some results available for financial year 2021 for my demo business. So we'll start with the data collection and then run through some of the results after that. So this is what you can see. And before we get started, I'll just give you an overview of this page. So we've broken down the data that we require from you into the main areas of your business, so it's easier to understand where that data is coming from. So first, we have the integrations with your accounting and sales system. Then we have operations, including things like facilities, production, human resources, and governance. And the reason we've broken these down into these sections is just to make it as easy as possible for you to collect this data and also split the work with your team if needed. And the way we've done that is by building a collaborator function. So what can happen here is if, for example, I'm filling out the platform for Omnevue for our financial year, and I need some help from our MD, Daniel. I would just type in daniel@omnevue.com, click invite. He'll then receive an email and he can log into the platform, join the business, and then split the work with me. So going back to the data collection, once you've invited any colleagues that you might want to help out, the first thing you do is connect your accounting system. So I've done this here already with just a demo account, but just to give you an overview here, obviously we explain why we need access to your accounting software, and also how that's going to work. And here you would just add new connection. We connect with all the major accounting softwares like QuickBooks, Xero, NetSuite, etc. So this is where your software would appear. You would just click the right one, next, continue. We're just going to tell you quickly about the financial data that we're collecting. Click next. And then you would just log in here. And that's all you need to do. Our system will then collect all the data that we require from your software. You don't have to do anything else for that.
Jamie?
Yes, David.
Just a question that I wonder if people are wondering about, which is how do you get ESG data from someone's accounting system? I think it'd be really useful to explain that and where you've been clever there.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the way that Omnevue is possibly slightly different to others in the market is that we don't collect all your data in a linear fashion. So for example, if the first KPI that we're reporting is carbon emissions, we don't ask for all the data relating to carbon emissions and then move on, for example, to your gender pay gap. What actually happens is that a lot of data within your business, and it could be financial data, could feed into a number of different sustainability KPIs. So for example, within your accounting system, our platform can go in, identify which documents or which items within the accounting system are invoices. It can then work out which of those invoices are utility invoices. It will then go in and read the actual usage in the invoice. So for example, 5,000 kilowatt hours in your London hotel, for example. And then it's able to calculate the associated carbon emissions with that usage.
And a bit more detail. How do you do that?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have obviously a number of different methodologies. Omnevue was founded out of Dr. Mark Lepaire's doctoral research. So we keep up to date with our calculations, obviously, as best possible, and make sure that we're aligned with the latest regulations. So when it comes to carbon emissions, that means that we calculate in line with the GHG protocol. And what that is, for anyone that hasn't been lucky enough to be inundated with various ESG terms, that is effectively the gold standard for corporate carbon reporting across the world. So we follow that line by line to make sure that we're calculating your carbon correctly. For other metrics, like for example, gender pay gap, we do that directly in line with the government guidelines. So we always ensure that we have completely transparent and completely consistent methodologies.
And Jamie, just one other thing. Am I right in understanding that if you're looking at somebody's energy use, you're plugged into the energy companies, so you can assess if the bill is from SSE or it's from NPower or someone else, you will know. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, David. So not only do we have your exact usage from the invoices, we also have the supplier. And what that means, we might even have your exact tariff. So what that means is that we can go in and very accurately determine what energy mix your supplier is using for us. So for example, is British Gas getting all of its electricity from renewable sources, or is it also using fossil fuels? So that means that the carbon calculations are even more specific and accurate as well.
And a final point on that, that means, doesn't it, that the energy reporting that is coming to your system is what's called third-party verified. So this is not you making a declaration. This is Omnevue as an independent getting it from your provider, which makes it more trusted for reporting.
Exactly. 100%, yes. So the beauty of, can you calculate carbon for international companies? Yes, Pamela, we can, is the short answer. I think we'll come back to that in the Q&A later on, if that's okay. But yes, the short answer is absolutely.
Thank you.
David, you're completely right. So the beauty of taking information from directly within your business is that it's source data. There's no manipulation required or self-reporting. We can pull it directly from those systems. What that also means is that we can provide assurance on your sustainability data. So we have a number of chartered accountants who work for the Omnevue team, also now ESG accountants. Now they've jumped ship, and they will provide you with a limited assurance report, which assures all of the sustainability KPIs that we provide for you. So that means it's obviously perfect for any regulatory filing. If you have any requests from suppliers, investors, any other stakeholders like that, then the data that Omnevue provides is perfect for reporting up or down the food chain.
Jamie, I'll just summarize that back for everybody. But our goal is to provide you with financial grade, auditable ESG data. So it's as good a quality for non-financial data as you get for financial data. And the key about the source documents is that it provides an evidence trail that an auditor can test what the calculations are and can prove, just as they do on the financial side.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, David. Brilliant. So let's get back to the demo. So this is the accounting system has been integrated. So we're just going to flick back here. So as I said, we can collect a lot of data from these things called direct integrations, which means we can pull the data automatically. And then we have two other ways of collecting data within the Omnevue platform. The second is manual inputs, but these manual inputs we try and keep to a real minimum, and they're really easy to work through. So for example, the facilities section, which I imagine will apply largely to a lot of those on this call. If, for example, Omnevue owned a hotel, I would add in the Omnevue hotel as a facility. It's based in the UK. We've occupied it for the entire financial year. Add the Omnevue hotel, and then you would input the size in either square meters or square feet. It's up to you. You click add, and that's all you need to do. And you can continue to do the same for all facilities that you have within the business. If you have more than 10, then we also have a bulk file upload. So that just means that you upload a spreadsheet and our platform will be able to read all the data automatically. And when you're done submitting the facilities, you click complete. And what you'll see here is that we have progress bars along the top of the data collection page. And you'll see that this starts to move along really quickly as well. So already a lot of progress made on this platform. And then the final style of data collection that I'll show you is just a really simple downloadable template. So this is our HR section. It's just a quick note that we will be integrating with HR softwares in the near future as well. At the moment, we're just collecting information on which are most commonly used among our current and kind of prospective client base, just to ensure obviously the platform is most applicable and most useful. But in the absence of that for now, we just have a template which you would download. We ask for various employee data which you can export from your HR software. We don't collect any linking information like names, for example, so all salary data, etc., is all completely confidential. And the platform also deals with this in a very secure way. So for example, if I'm working alongside Mark on the platform, but for whatever reason, I don't want Mark to see all the pay details, once I've uploaded the spreadsheet into the platform, no one can then download it or view it again, which means that everything is really secure and all the data is obviously kind of handled correctly. And then you would click complete. That is just a really brief overview of the data collection. Just to give you an idea, we had a client set a new record for quickest time on the platform last week, and that was under an hour for a year's worth of financial reporting, just to give you an idea. So obviously, depending on the complexity of your business, depending on how many facilities, for example, you need to input, that's going to affect the workload, and also whether you decide to invite anyone to split the load with you. But it can be done very quickly, just so you know. Once the data collection is done, you would head down to the bottom and click submit your data, and then we'll send you a confirmation email to let you know that all that data is in the hands of our ESG chartered accountants. And a few days later, you'll get an email to let you know that your results are ready. So we're going to run through that. So just to show you here, View ESG is our core ESG reporting product. That is what you're seeing right now. It's access to the entire online platform. View ESG comes with an assurance report from one of our chartered accountants. So we can go into that in more detail in a minute. So just to give you an idea here, this is the summary page. So we run through obviously the summary of the KPIs, and then we break down your reporting in a lot more depth into environmental, social, and governance. And we also give you the option here to export all your data in an Excel format. So what that means is that we give you a lot of pretty looking graphs, tables, things like that to help you understand your results. But if, for example, you'd like to take your raw results data and put it into your own company branding for, say, a sustainability report or a slide deck, then that data is also available for you. So just to give you an overview of the metrics that we collect, we have 25 ESG metrics here. So obviously a financial summary at the top. Down here, you can see we break environmental down into your scopes 1, 2, and 3 carbon, and then things like resource use and renewable energy production and consumption. Socially, we split largely into employees and customers. So with employees, we have how much are you paying, supporting, training your employees, and then various diversity and pay gap metrics. So that's across gender, ethnicity, and also the pay gap between your highest paid employee and the average employee. And then on the customer side, we also track customer complaints, any GDPR breaches and whether you're tracking that. And also we have a way of calculating the coverage of your supply chain, whereby you've assessed suppliers for ESG monitoring and reporting. Just to give you an idea as well of potential exposure to ESG issues down the line. And obviously this speaks a lot to scope 3 emissions for anyone that's familiar with carbon emissions as well. So that means the emissions in your supply chain of your business. And then on the governance side, we look at the composition and functioning of your board, check for any tax interventions, and then also some compulsory policies, so anti-slavery and whistleblower policies. For each of these metrics, we give you an actual value and a benchmark, as you can see here. So the benchmarks we calculate a number of different ways, and we've actually just recently updated these in line with the latest regulation and latest findings in the market. So for carbon and water, very briefly, just to let you know, these are science-based benchmarks. So this is in line with the Paris Agreement for carbon, so net zero by 2050. And for water usage, this is in line with UN reduction targets. For the social benchmarks, we have some really cool ways of handling your data and making it specific to your business. So for example, with salaries and wages, we will look at the top quartile of remunerating employees within your sector, and we'll compare how you're paying your employees to the latest market data, for example. For ethnic diversity, we'll look at the location of your facilities and compare the ethnic breakdown of that location to the ethnic diversity numbers of your business, for example. So the ways of really helping you to further understand your data. And then just to briefly run through some examples of the reporting that we give you. So for example, this is the carbon emissions page. So we're going to come back to these sections here. But just to show you, we break down your carbon by obviously emissions intensity. We'll give you your total CO2e figures and then break them down by the major categories. So identifying where carbon is coming from most within your business. We'll break it down into scopes 1, 2, and 3 for any reporting that's required. Just very briefly, scope 1 are effectively emissions that your business burns. So that will come from either company vehicles, or if you have any boilers, furnaces, if you're topping up machinery with refrigerants. Scope 2 is effectively purchased electricity. So that's electricity that you buy in. And scope 3 is everything else. So that is everything in the supply and value chain of your business. And then we further break down these events, emissions into, for example, by facility, obviously really relevant for this tool and for our partnership with the EEA to help you understand where those emissions are coming from. And then once we've given you all these graphs, we also give you some analysis at the top of this page. So we have some automatically generated tasks and insights. So these help you to further understand your performance across the year, potentially how far away you are from your benchmark, or what you might be able to do in future years to meet that benchmark. And then value and risk down here. This is just a demo account, so this business it doesn't apply to, but we will also give you, for example, the money saved by reducing your scope 1 and scope 2 emissions versus your previous year. So the value and risk for Omnevue is a way of linking your ESG performance to your P&L and showing you that your sustainability performance can really impact your business growth as well. So this is CO2. Again, obviously energy is going to be very relevant for a lot of people on this call. So just to let you know, obviously, that we have some detailed analysis here, tracking on a monthly basis, both spending and usage. And then we'll also break down and show you what proportion of your energy is renewable across different suppliers, across different facilities. And then just briefly to show you on the social side, again, obviously really breaking down your employee data, helping you to understand, for example, change in EBITDA contribution for each employee versus previous years. We'll show you how we've calculated your average employee support and average investment in employee training. And then also help you to understand things like average salaries by seniority. So that's by operational, managerial, and senior managerial levels of your business. And also cost of replacing talent. So this is a CIMA methodology, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. And this is a way of helping you to understand actually really how much money is going to come from potentially an employee leaving your business. So that incorporates factors such as obviously recruitment fees, the opportunity cost of other staff working on filling the gaps while that person's gone, and also training a new hire when they arrive in the business. And just a way of really making more sense of your ESG data. I'm going to take a pause there and just go back to the View ESG Plus report. Mark, is there anything that you'd like to add that I've missed there?
No, I think we should keep going, Jamie, because I'm just conscious of time. So maybe just share the report and then we'll move on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark. So as mentioned, View ESG is everything you've seen. That's access to our entire platform. View ESG Plus is our the extension of that product, and this is what comes with the limited assurance report and a unique audit mark for your business. So I'll just download the ESG Plus report for my business here. So we can show you here just the contents running through a limited assurance statement and director's statement, and then we get into your results provided by Omnevue and also a bit more on how we've calculated that data. So limited assurance statement here, like you might see in a financial audit report, and you can see it's signed by a chartered accountant, director's statement. And then here we break down all of your ESG performance and your results against your benchmarks for all the metrics. And further down, we also tell you exactly how we've calculated all of your KPIs, what data we've and where we've pulled that data from the business, and also what those benchmarks are and how they've been calculated. So really kind of a one-stop shop for all of your audited ESG data. That is all for now. Let me hand back to Mark for the next step, I think.
Thanks, Jamie. And obviously questions at the end. I've been answering one or two in the chat, so keep them coming in the chat if you like, and we'll try and deal with them at the end. So you can see the idea is very much that you will have, anybody using this, if you wished, would have a certified, audited report to go alongside your financial reports for all your ESG data. So that's really the aim. And as I think many of us have discussed, ultimately the new accounting standards are going to require it to be a single report as we go forward a number of years. But for now, they are two separate reports. So that's that. Right, on to benchmarking. Just before I hand over to Ed, who'll do a quick update on this. There you can see hopefully how the platform, if a number of you as members want to start using it, you can see very quickly how we can get to some interesting benchmarking. Just before I hand over to Ed, we are also, through our partnership with MasterCard, we've been asked to, or had the opportunity to develop a new tool. There's a new piece of legislation that's come into Europe called Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which I won't bore you with, but essentially is they're taking 6 very dirty industries and they're trying to make poor or bad polluting companies from outside the block pay essentially some kind of an excise tax to bring bad performing carbon products into the block so that EU companies aren't disadvantaged. That, by the way, is going to be extended sector by sector until it covers the whole economy by 2030. So it's a pretty important piece of work. And as a result of that, we are developing a benchmarking tool for about 42 countries so that by various sectors, you'll be able to see how you compare not only with your own peer group in your own company, but also across other markets. So as a hotel, you could say, how do I compare with France, Italy, Germany, America, etc., which would be quite interesting. And then on top of that, Ed will build a specificity for specifically hotels and EEA. So Ed, over to you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jamie. So I'll keep it short. On the benchmarking, we have been asked as the EEA over the past year or so to if we can put together some detailed benchmarking mechanism, specifically looking around carbon usage and the environmental side of things, with the idea that because hotels can be so different against each other. So it's really just using a hotel overall benchmarking. It is not comparing apples with apples in many respects. There's a couple of problems with this. First of all is actually having the data available. Secondly is having accurate data, and then accurate data which is also verified. So Omnevue for us is a perfect opportunity to start getting some of this data in, given that it allows operators, hotel owners and operators to input data which we know is then accurate and verified. And we also want to do it with as low time constraint as possible on the people providing the data, because we also have people who have come to us who want this data for benchmarking, but don't really want to spend the time actually contributing to it, which is unfortunate. So if we take away that friction, it makes it as good as possible. So all we need to get this data is effectively, we want to break it down by size band of hotel and also by hotel type. So we're looking at the STR classifications to make it standardized across the industry. So luxury, upper upscale. And then we'll break it into subtype of hotel only, whether it's got spa/swimming pool facilities or whether it's a full resort hotel. Now, in an ideal world, yes, we'd look at number of restaurants, conference room space, etc. But realistically, we're just not going to get that level of data from enough people, and we're just not going to be able to have any meaningful averages. So in an ideal world, we would have 1,000 different categories. We want to make it as detailed, but at the same time have the integrity of the data by having enough properties within each of the segments. What does this mean you need to supply? As you saw Jamie when he put in the demonstration, he typed in Omnevue hotel. The only thing that we are asking extra for is when you type in the property name, you type in the property name dash a code for the categorization of hotel dash the number of rooms. So for instance, an upper upscale hotel would be hotel type B, hotel only H. So you just type in Omnevue hotel dash BH dash 45 for 45 rooms. That is all you need to do. What will then come to us with a tick box of consent is your property and company name will not come to us. We understand it's more likely we would get higher sign-up from the anonymized data. So we get an anonymized unique ID so we could track the same property over time. The country it's in, then we'll just be supplied the number of rooms, size of the property, energy usage, renewable, carbon emission, water usage, waste, and the amount of recyclable waste. This will allow us to provide detailed benchmarking for different classifications of hotels at different sizing. Why is this important? It's important for 2 reasons. First of all, to allow yourselves and other members to be able to compare properties on a like-for-like basis. And secondly, a lot of the feedback we've had to do with CREM, which seems to be used more and more but by hotel asset owners, is that they don't believe that the CREM system is being fair on hotels. They think the starting point is incorrect. It's penalising them and how fast it's going down. So we are working with CREM on this, but they need verified data for their benchmarking. So the only way we can help align CREM or improve CREM with the industry is in order to provide this benchmarking data that's verified, and to do that we need verified data provided by operators. And people using Omnevue, obviously that gives us the verified data with possibly the lowest time cost to any of the operators. So in short, anyone who signs up to this ideally will be ticking a box allowing anonymized data to be shared with us, which can then be used both internally for your own benchmarking, as well as helping the industry as a whole in getting the CREM pathway into a pathway that we think is suitable for the hotel industry. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we're also in discussions about CREM potentially looking at different hotel pathways for different types of hotels, or is that too far down the line?
No, that's absolutely right, and it's very current. So we have agreed a partnership with CREM, with the Carbon Risk Real Estate Monitor, to set the net zero trajectories for hotels in line with STR classifications. So having this, rather than just having the benchmarks, which are very useful on Omnevue to set benchmarks about reduction in your carbon emission, knowing what your hotel property is compared to other hotel properties in the UK that are also upper mid-scale, which only have hotels which are between 25 and 100 rooms, is useful. But then also by having the upper mid-scale and upscale and upscale classifications of benchmarking, we can work with CREM to make sure that the trajectory for the carbon emissions that CREM is using, which is then being used to value properties by property portfolio investors, is applicable to your type of hotel, and that you're not being punished by having a property which looks like it's stranded just because you happen to have spa and swimming facilities in a luxury hotel, when actually the majority of the benchmarking data is being taken from an economy hotel in a city centre, which is just not reflective in terms of carbon usage per metre squared. Sorry, Ed, can I just refer you to a question that's in the chat asking if we've looked at the data in the Cornell Hotel Sustainability Benchmarking Index? Would you mind commenting on that?
Yes, we have looked at that. There are a couple of issues with it. The good thing about it is, yes, there is lots of data, so that's a fantastic starting point. Relatively, I mean, in terms of the global hotels, it's actually a tiny fraction, but relatively, it's a reasonably large amount of data. The issue with it is twofold. One, we're unsure how much that would actually be able to be used into the CREM platform, and predominantly that is because according to the latest data from Cornell, it is 70% verified, but that is also self-verified. So someone submitting their data and saying it's verified data without any third-party verification. Now, CREM aren't necessarily going to accept something which is 70% verified if it is all self-verified as well. Now, if there are operators, large-scale operators who prepare this data for Cornell, then we can use pretty much the same data if it is sent across to us, especially if they then showed some third-party verification certificate. So that data doesn't necessarily need to be put into another platform verified. If we can be shown it is verified data and is sent across to us, then that is something CREM will likely accept to help us along this pathway. The second point is there is very few independent hotels, as far as I'm aware, that are included in that. It tends to be a handful of large chains, which is it's fine, and that's how you get a lot of the data. Whereas with Omnevue, we are hoping to capture a lot of the smaller and independent hotels, which account for a very large proportion of total hotel assets. But if people are contributing to Cornell and already have this data, and they have verification that it is third-party verified, then having access to that data from the operator would be fantastic. How it would work, getting it using the Cornell data, given they are a for-profit organization who work with them to get the data, and using it with CREM is looking to be a bit more problematic at the moment.
Okay, thank you for that, Ed. Conscious of time, we need to keep moving, and then I want to keep some time for questions. So Jamie, if we could do this in about 4 or 5 minutes, that'd be great. This slide is only to say that 2024 is when this stuff really hits. So we've heard a lot about CSRD. There's been some questions on that already. SFDR is the financial stuff, new accounting standards, and basically only to say all of it, as you see, is either in place already or starts in January. So the clock, the alarm clock's gone. So we need to start collecting this data. And I think you'll be asked more and more, for those of you in either with bank lending or in investment chains, your LPs, your investors will have to start supplying this data or we'll have to start disclosing this data under the regulation. And so we'll be asking you for it. But I think enough on that. We can answer all these later. Jamie.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, as discussed, we're just going to briefly run you through the data that Omnevue provides, how it applies and how it aligns with 3 different kind of frameworks. So the EU taxonomy, which is a piece of regulation, the Science-Based Targets Initiative, which is a net zero accreditation provider. And then also we have a slide on CREM, but obviously Ufi and Ed have already had a kind of in-depth discussion on that. So I think we can move fast. The EU taxonomy is pretty much the gold standard in terms of sustainability disclosure regulation worldwide. And that feeds into SFDR and CSRD, as Mark was saying, which might be 2 pieces of regulation which will affect you either indirectly or directly. This slide here shows the results of a mapping project. So what that means is that in 2021, we had a number of researchers at King's commissioned a study to look into how well the Omnevue scorecard aligned with the requirements of the EU taxonomy and of other major reporting providers. We've recently had that mapping project updated to ensure that we're capturing any regulation that's been changing, and also the Omnevue scorecard itself has changed as we've kind of taken on additional customer feedback and looked ahead to the future. And the good news is that as you can see, the Omnevue scorecard has the highest alignment with the EU taxonomy at 78.6%. And we have an efficiency per metric of 3.4%, which is the second best in the sample. What that means is that Omnevue is the second best in terms of explaining the EU taxonomy with the fewest number of metrics. Just to give you a bit of background, we've recently changed the scorecard. So for example, we've removed some sustainability KPIs, which we think were less important for our clients based on their feedback, but we've also introduced some new metrics. So for example, we now check if you have a biodiversity plan, if applicable to your business. That's something which is required by the EU taxonomy. And the ISSB standards are also talking about developing biodiversity reporting as well. So again, just ensuring that we're staying ahead of the regulation and future-proofing any of our clients for any of their reporting needs.
Jamie, 78%, it's not 100%. What's the gap?
Thanks, David. Yeah, so there's actually a very simple answer for that. The EU taxonomy asks for a couple of questions on things like, do you have exposure to controversial weapons, nuclear waste, chemical waste, things like this. Understandably, for a lot of the SME clients that we work with, dealing with nuclear waste isn't exactly the most common business activity. So those things are left out of the scorecard, but that's the only reason there's the gap there. It's just the EU taxonomy asks for them and we don't report on them. Everything else is perfect. Thanks, David. And then moving on here, so a word on the SBTI. So Inda asked a question about this on our last webinar as well. So for those who maybe are less familiar with it, this is the Science-Based Targets Initiative. It's a cross-collaboration initiative set up by the Carbon Disclosure Project and a number of other NGOs. And what the SBTI effectively does is provides you accreditation and says, yes, your carbon reduction targets in line with net zero, in line with the Paris Agreement, whatever it might be, are science-based, and you get a stamp of the SBTI on your website. The SBTI has a separate reporting initiative for SMEs. What this is effectively a Google form online. And at Omnevue, we've developed a really easy to use Excel tool, which will help you to understand what SBTI target is most appropriate for your business, if this is something you're considering, and will also help you to understand exactly how you can take all of the data that Omnevue will provide you with and use it in your SBTI submission. So I'm just going to show you that very quickly here. So this is the tool. So we have this decision tree here. There are 2 types of targets for the SBTI, near term and maintenance. We don't need to get into it now, but the tool will help you to understand exactly which one applies to your business. And when we get into target selection here, what you can see is all the questions that the SBTI will ask you. And then in these two columns here, we'll tell you exactly where to find your data within Omnevue, and then any other additional insights that you might need for your answers or your reporting there. So really run you through step by step and make it a really easy process. This is available to download on the Omnevue website under resources, but we can circulate a link for that later on.
Thanks, Jamie. I think we've done CREM. Do you have anything to say on CREM other than what's been covered?
Yeah, no, nothing to add really from me, besides obviously that, as you can see in these the screenshots of the CREM tool here, obviously it asks for various energy usage, refrigerant usage, things like this. This is all data that's collected within Omnevue, and it's stuff that you'll be able to take straight from the platform. And obviously we're here to help or discuss anything that you might need to understand more about your results as well.
Great, thank you. Now, I'm not sure who's doing the discussion of pilot group and benefits to members, but whoever's doing it, could they take 5 minutes, please?
Jamie.
Perfect. Thank you, David. So as mentioned earlier, we have an exclusive offer on at the moment to kind of celebrate the beginning of our partnership with the EEA. We will circulate this little infographic in the bottom right after the webinar. But for anyone who signs up to our platform by the 22nd of December, will get 10% off their first purchase with Omnevue. Just a little bit more on pricing, so I think it might be relevant here. We have a new joiners offer with Omnevue. So when you first sign up to the platform, we'll give you 2 years worth of reporting. That's 2 years of two financial years, worth of reporting for the price of one at first. What this means is that obviously you get year-on-year comparison data, and we also have a lot more data to enrich your analysis, calculate your benchmarks as well. The other thing, there was a question, I think earlier in the chat about portfolio hotels and various kind of other corporate structures. Just to let you know, the Omnevue platform is built with group structures in mind, and it can handle that. So just so you know about the pricing, what we do is we take the number of employees across a total group to determine your total price. And then there's a flat fee of £499 for each subsidiary that you add. Obviously, I'm aware that in the hospitality industry, there are a number of different kind of dynamics and business models going on. What I would say is the easiest thing is shoot me an email if obviously you're interested in taking the discussion forwards. We can look at how your business is set up. A lot of it's to do with, for example, how the accounting systems interact. And then we can look at doing a quote as well and working through. So there's a 10% discount if you sign up before the 22nd of December. And we also have this pilot group offer. So obviously David mentioned some of the details earlier, but just to kind of reiterate here, you'll have exclusive access to the pilot program, the Omnevue and EEA combined team. And we'll also be seeking as much feedback as possible on how we can make the platform most useful for hospitality businesses. There'll be an exclusive workshop with Mark to run you through some of the more technical reporting and regulation for those who are particularly interested. And then obviously, as we build out our benchmarking capabilities, both through the MasterCard cross-border benchmarking tool, as Mark mentioned, but also our EEA Omnevue benchmarking, all those who obviously join this pilot group will be the first to receive that and all the benefits that come with it. That's all on this slide, so I'll hand back to you, Mark.
Great, thank you very much. Now, we've tried to take some questions, and between us all, we've been answering different bits of them in the chat, but if anyone has one, shout away. Anyone? No questions? Amazing.
Okay, shall I ask a few painful questions then?
Why not?
So Jamie, if I've got a portfolio with lots of different hotels and quite a lot of employees, how flexible are you going to be on price to accommodate me? And how easy are you going to make it for us to sign up and test out your platform?
Well, I know you drive a hard bargain, David, so I might have to be worked down on the price. So yeah, you'll see. Obviously, please get in touch with me directly, and we can chat about this in more detail. Our pricing is already structured to be really affordable for SMEs, and it has been roughly aligned with how much you would, for example, expect to pay with your end-of-year financial bookkeeping. Obviously, it involves the work of chartered accountants. There's a lot of calculations and work that goes into providing the assurance on the data. But yes, we can discuss pricing in more depth. As I said, the way it works with the group structure is that obviously we take the total number of employees, and then it's a relatively minimal fee for every subsidiary that you add. So it remains affordable as you add on other properties or other subsidiary businesses.
Another question for you, Jamie, because I know that you and Mark are smart commercial guys. Have you made any attempt to figure out how much time you might be saving on behalf of hotel groups in terms of the people that might be involved if they didn't have your system?
Mark, I'll hand that one to you if that's okay. Just on the previous research that you've done on this, I think would be really helpful.
Yeah, no, actually, David, the answer is not, because we've done a couple of hotels, but not many. So we don't really have the data on hotels specifically, but other SME businesses of all kinds, some of over 250 employees, right down to 2 and 3 man operations or people operations. It obviously depends on how sophisticated the business is, how well organized it is. Does it keep its data in shoeboxes, or does it have electronic systems, etc.? But it's somewhere around, if you think about it, think about doing your financial audit, right? This stuff, particularly in the first year, will take at least as long, if not more. And obviously it gets easier as you learn where the data is and how to manage it. But so it can be a few months. And if you're very disorganized, there's quite a lot of toing and froing, just like with the financial audit. Have you got this invoice? What does this mean? Where did that come from? All that stuff. So it's very akin to that. So it can be 2-3 months. So it's well worth. I mean, what we've tried to do, which I hope came across from Jamie's demonstration, is that almost all of the data does exist in the business already. And I think that's an important point. We're just not using it for purpose. But you have HR records, you have logistics records, you have vehicle logs, you have an accounting system, almost all of you. So most of it already exists. It's really about marshalling it and collecting it for this purpose. So I don't think it's quite as bad as financial, but it could be several months, yeah.
But is the pain over, Mark, once I've done it year 1 to get the stuff on your platform, or could there be more pain in future?
It's not over, but it's minimized to a very great degree. I mean, you have to do it every year, but obviously if nothing changes, if you've still got the same number of hotels in the group, the system will just say that it'll ask you for changes rather than having to put in everything again. So yeah, I mean, it obviously gets easier as you go forward, as you get organized. The other thing to say, though, is the other reason the pain will never be over is that the regulations are going to keep evolving, the science will keep evolving, the accounting standards will keep evolving. So we will have to keep changing it. I mean, you know, we're already on the next generation of this scorecard, which we'll have out in a couple of months, I think. So we do all need to keep moving with the times. But broadly speaking, yes, David, if we get organized, get the data sorted, get it into the system, then we're looking for changes rather than having to do that every time. Yeah.
Perfect. We have a question here from Ufi on if I can speak to questions regarding security and privacy concerns. And absolutely. So obviously this is something which we are incredibly conscious of, and we're aware that businesses might have kind of concerns around this. There's a number of different answers on kind of how we're covering this, and I'd also refer you to our website. We've got a data security policy and privacy policy, which really breaks this down in a lot more depth and eloquence than I ever could manage on this call. But just to kind of let you know briefly, all your data is hosted securely in the cloud, and it's encrypted in rest and transit. As I mentioned earlier, the platform's a one-way information stream. So that means that if you're working with other colleagues across your business on the collaborator feature, they're not going to be able to access, thank you, Daniel, for sending those links. They're not going to be able to access any sensitive data that you've uploaded to the platform. The other thing which is really important to say is that the only people from the Omnevue team who will have access to your both kind of confidential financial but also ESG data is our team of chartered accountants. They are all members of the ICAEW, and they all uphold the same standards and fiduciary duty of more regular financial accountants. So that's just kind of an overview on that. But obviously, if anyone has any more specific concerns about how the system works or how we collect the data, then we're always more than happy to discuss that as well.
I see one other question from Robert here. I don't know when you joined, Robert, but his question is, I think there would be a fear from already overstretched finance teams how much work is involved from them, as ESG reporting is a new additional workload that they may not have seen before. So yes, it is additional, Robert. They're going to have to get their heads around it, because that's what the regulations essentially require. It doesn't have to be the finance department, but given that so much of the data comes out of financial data and accounting data, I think it is going to become the purview of finance departments. That's what the new accounting standards are driving at. The whole profession is going to have to get its head around this, the accounting profession. And we're working actually with the ICAEW to develop a course, which will be out in the first quarter of next year, to train accountants how to do this. So I think your finance teams are going to have to get their head around it. And this last question is there a demo that can demonstrate to the CFO and below them how easy the platform is to use? Well, I hope that was done in the early part of the call. If you didn't see it, ask Jamie and he'll
we can circulate a link, can't we, Mark?
I'm sorry?
Well, because we've been recording this, for anybody who's interested, we could circulate a link.
Good point. Yes. Thank you, David. We can do that.
And there's a question here from Pamela. Is this platform suitable for large companies?
Again, Pamela, I think we've designed it primarily to work with small and medium businesses of under 250 employees. We have worked for some larger companies. It's not specifically designed for bigger businesses. It's specifically designed for, as I say, SMEs. But depends on the structure of your business. If you have a lot of group subsidiaries that are smaller, then they're effectively a lot of SMEs. So again, I think check with Jamie, and we'll come back to you on that specifically. But I think that's a kind of reasonable starting point, is to think of us for under 250 and around that number.
Do we have any other questions? If not, I'm happy to add one or two more to keep the conversation going.
There are some other questions. There's another question from Robert in the chat.
Great.
Concerning, he says, to be clear, any non-financial invoice accounts payable data would need to be uploaded via either a form on the platform or via a templated Excel to be uploaded. Jamie?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so Robert, so we kind of covered this in the demo earlier. The first thing you do when logging onto the platform is you connect your accounting system. If we support your accounting system, we can collect all the data automatically using an API. So what that means is that you log into your accounting system via the Omnevue platform, and our platform will collect anything that it needs. So for example, it can go into your list of invoices, it can work out which of those invoices are for energy suppliers, it can then read that invoice for the exact usage in kilowatt hours, and then calculate the associate carbon emissions with that. So no need to be uploading specific invoices or balance sheets or things like that. We can deal with all of it ourselves.
Navneet's asking.
Hi, Navneet.
Hi, Mark. You already answered my main question, but this is a follow. I think this could be a very important one for private equity investors in the hotel industry. As you know, they have several portfolios, if you like, not just one. They're just investors with different. So, what does a portfolio mean when you said there'll be a sort of pricing for?
Yes.
How do you define portfolio?
I'll let Jamie answer that, because we are already working with several PE and VCs. So, yeah. Jamie, do you want to?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think there are a couple of answers in terms of how this applies. So obviously when we're looking just at the, say we're just looking at kind of a more simple hotel group structure, if each of those hotels is on a separate accounting system, then we would treat those as subsidiaries, within the platform. What that means is the group owner can go in and access all of those subsidiaries, and they can also assign work to those different subsidiaries if the subsidiary has all the payroll data, for example, and they need to upload it on their side. What that also means is that we're working with, for example, private equity or venture capital investors. The same can apply. So they can have a group account, and then any of their portfolio companies or investments can be treated as subsidiaries and then managed in the platform as well.
Understood. Yeah. Thanks.
There are, Navneet, if you wanted to speak to some of our VC or PE clients, for instance, Jamie could arrange that for you. It's quite. They found it really useful where they want to report.
I understand.
SFTR at a group level, at a portfolio level. It just makes it much easier, obviously, and it gives them consistency, which is the key thing.
You can see that's a real opportunity for them. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Couple of obvious questions. Let's say I'm interested, guys. What do I do next? And can I get your slides from today's presentation?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the slides and the recording will be circulated after the webinar. In terms of what to do next, we'll be sending around a follow-up email, just obviously kind of recapping what was covered on the call, with all of these links and things. And we'll also include there the discount code that you can use on the platform. What I would recommend is just get in touch with me. If you're interested, obviously, in signing up soon, then just shoot me an email. We can always set up an onboarding call just to make it as easy as possible for you to get onto the platform. Make sure that the discount code is working for you. And as Ed mentioned as well, when you're inputting facilities in our platform, we're going to ask you to do it in a specific way so we can build this benchmarking. So I'll also share an onboarding manual specific to EEA members with you when you sign up to the product. That'll just run you through everything step by step and make it all really clear.
I'm just going to deal with the final question, which has come in from Adam. Who are your competitors in this and what makes you different? Let me just say, Adam, of course there are competitors. There are lots of people calculating carbon. Lots of them have started. You can go to any of them. Most of them have, many of them are also selling carbon offsets, which we think could represent a conflict of interest. So we don't do that. Very few of them, none of them that we're aware of, are providing assurance grade, auditable ESG information as we are talking about with certified professional accountants. I think that's the big point of difference. We deliberately went to the end game, if you like, which is not just carbon, it's about ESG, and it's not just about getting any old data, it's got to be financial grade, auditable ESG data. So frankly, we've been struggling for the last couple of years to get people to really kind of see the point of what we're doing, because we went to the end game first. But now, as everybody wakes up to the regulation, the market's coming towards us, if you like, because they're realizing it's got to be proper information, it's got to be audited, and I have to report on much more than carbon. But there are people out there offering different pieces of it, and we're not aware of anybody offering the kind of menu, if you like, and the auditable function.
Can I just offer a final comment? It's a bit of an emotional pitch, this one, but ultimately the regulators with benchmarking are going to be pushing for ever higher performance, because that's just the inevitable way things go. And I think from the point of view of us being an industry, if we're going to be able to push back and get them to be realistic, we need to have the best quality information in order to have that conversation in an authoritative way and make sure that their regulation they do come up with is appropriate and it's sensible and it's fair. And if we don't have that, then we'll get horrible discontinuities. So I would say to anybody who's here in the industry, it might be tough to play at this highest possible standard, but ultimately, if everyone does, we will have the best conversations with the regulators and the best chance of continuing to operate in a realistic fashion.
The only other thing I'd add to that, David, is it's not all about compliance. It is a huge opportunity. Once you have financial grade data, you can use it for decision making. You can create value. So as Jamie was saying, if you're saving water, you're saving money. It's very simple. And why not work out how much money you're saving? If you're paying your staff a little bit better or training them better, you're probably increasing productivity. Why not measure that? Why not know what those sums are? So I think, yes, David, absolutely, there is a compliance angle. But ultimately, it's about running your businesses really well. And that requires proper data, just like you do on the financial side. That's it. I mean, it really is incredibly simple when you think about it.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. I think we should not delay anybody. We're about 2 minutes over. Thank you for all your questions. We will circulate a recording of this. We will circulate the slides. We will circulate the BTI tool. And if anyone has any questions, please contact us. Jamie's your man. And indeed, Ufi and David and Ed. Any questions on benchmarking, talk to Ed or Jamie. So great. Thanks very much, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.
I'm loving those thumbs ups.
Bye, everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.